And we're back, July the 5th, 2022. I don't always date these, but in this case, it's post July the 4th festivities, July the 4th weekend. Had a long weekend with Monday off, and the 4th actually fell on Monday, and that was pretty special because it meant we could prep to do something big with our granddaughter Delilah, and buddy, it did not disappoint. The day did not disappoint. We started off by grabbing her, and actually we started our day off with a delicious trip to Baden Coffee, one of our favorite getaways. And Baden Coffee is in a classic old vintage building. I say vintage because it still sells vintage goods, but it's exposed ceilings with the beautiful sort of like metalwork on the interior of the ceiling, and otherwise a brick superstructure. It's an amazing building that I always feel really good in when I go to. So I don't know, it's like I like to go down there. We get like a coffee or a tea. In the case of yesterday, I believe we had Earl Grey tea, and it was delicious. Had a pot of that, and Nancy usually has some of the quiche that they had, and I think in addition to that, we also had oatmeal infused with coffee and cream, which was pretty tasty. And from there, we went and had a quick hour or so to charge batteries and offload previous footage from the weekend, which you'll see in part 1 of my weekly vlog, in order to prepare for the footage that we would be getting on Monday, the rest of the day. So, but before we get into that, let me talk really quick about what went down on Sunday. Sunday, and I haven't really gotten to this yet, thus far in the vlog, or podcast, whatever. But I am collaborating now with the multi-talented, polydactyl instrumentalist known as Manly Hanley, aka Harrison Foreman, and I never can give this guy enough credit. I always quoted Todd Britt, my old buddy that played bass with me and really inspired me to learn to play guitar in my absolute zero years. That was my first band, technically my second band, but band with the same guy, so I always call that my first band. But we were more or less in a band for 18 years or so, almost 20 years, and produced a lot of music together. I wrote most of it. Todd did write a little bit of it, but for the most part, Todd's contribution was producing me, which was something at the time that I really needed. So, any of the Absolute Zero music I consider to be me and Todd, basically. We had a whole array of other musicians to play with us, including Bill Blaylock, Herbert Parsons, Jerry Waldrop, a.k.a. Bush. And those guys in their own way brought a lot to the sound of that band. But as for the writing and producing the songs, that was pretty much me and to a certain degree Todd. I always said Todd was my best collaborator, like he helped my music along the furthest. But then of course I met Eddie Snuggs, who really supported me with a platform to properly record my music through his various studios, but most especially through Snug Record Studio, which is the studio he has now. And when they say music is my life, like for me, for a long time, that was super true. Until Delilah came along, it was my everything. That was the one thing that validated me in life. It's like I never got to be the fit, buff guy that I always wanted to be, and I always struggled with my weight. But at the end of the day, music is magical, man. The ability to express yourself through music just gives you such a feeling of self-worth. I really can't even describe it. So music is everything. Music is my life. Then Delilah came along, and I realized, hey, there's definitely more to my existence than music, but it's still a huge chunk of what gives me a sense of self-worth, rightly or wrongly. And I always said Todd was that guy, and to a certain degree, Eddie was that guy that helped me realize, making music on a higher level and also being prolific, having multiple albums to my belt and that sort of thing. Alan West is another guy. He helped me along that path. But then I met this guy named Harrison Foreman. In the most serendipitous of ways, he actually came around the store, and apparently him and his mom had been shopping here, I understand it, for some time, and I had never noticed him or met him. And he seemed really shy when I first met him. But within a few minutes, we started talking about music, and then things changed. And then we probably within 10 or 15 minutes, I brought him up to the crib. up here where I do all my creative stuff, and I shared my YouTube channel, and he shared his YouTube channel. And within about 20 minutes, I realized, oh my God, this guy is so much like me, much younger, but I mean, like in my creative upbringing, we have so much common ground. How could we not be friends, right? And at that time, I had an electric band, and I was like, well, gosh, this guy clearly is a multi-talented instrumentalist. I didn't realize to what degree in that moment, but I heard some of the stuff he'd played, and I realized he was playing his own drums and bass, and I thought, well, there you go. I mean, if you need in the world of trying to run a band, man, drummers are like gold. Good bass players are hard to find, and guitarists are everywhere. Literally, that's how it is. And I'm a guitarist, so in my world, I was always looking for other people to flesh out that ensemble to make the band that I wanted to make. And I was going through a period where I had some guys playing with me there, but we didn't really have the second guitarist. I tried a local guy out who I got along really good with, and I thought he was an okay player and a decent singer, but just his focus was on doing acoustic covers, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's certainly more gigs to be had out there if you're doing that. But I realized he wasn't going to be the guy, and I sort of stopped inviting him around. And then Harrison just came into the picture, and I was like, well, can you play keys at all? And he's like, oh, a little bit. Much better piano player. I can barely play the piano compared to him. And he was willing to just come in and do whatever was needed to play in the band. And I was like, oh, my God, on top of like all the talent, dude has the right attitude. And that's, again, the unicorn is the talented guy that has the right attitude. But like, I totally didn't realize what a true collaborator he would be. And I mean, within like probably a couple of weeks, I was like, well, this has superseded my previous collaborators. And then like within 2 or 3 months, I was like, this is the guy I'm going to play with as long as he will play with me, because that's just how much I think about how he elevates my music, and makes our music far superior to what I can make by myself. And that's just real talk. That's me being vulnerable. He may hear this tomorrow and be like, forget that guy. I'm way better than him. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But as long as he's willing to work with me, that's the guy that I'll collaborate with. So big ups to you, Harrison. If you happen to hear this, you are the man, sir. Moving right along, Sunday was that time that we set aside to work on an album project called 5x5, which you'll be able to find right here on iTunes eventually when it's released. But the goal of that project is to take some of our originals that we're performing live right now, me, Harrison, and Tony Torres on percussion, and to capture the live essence. We've done several shows together now, and we've had some pretty good moments out there, and I wanted to capture the feeling of that live sound. And we're attempting to, and we do that like typically 2-man acoustic or 2-man acoustic with percussion. That's how we're playing mostly right now, and the gigs we played this summer. In fact, we've not done the electric show yet because we lost our drummer there, and we just haven't put that back together. But it's been good. It's been really good and lots of fun. So our goal, because I happen to know that Harrison can do this and has done this before, Harrison's made an album, a full album, written and recorded in 2 weeks. Not saying that's what we do all the time, but I thought, we don't even have to do the writing. The writing's already done. Let's just see if we can record our own album in a month. And so that's the goal of the 5x5. And we're 2 weeks into that right now, and I got to say, we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it. And barring anything unforeseen, we're going to make it. And another project that he and I had been co-producing and recording was something called... it's just a guy called Ansel Brown, which you can check him out on iTunes. And we did a song for him back in the summer, and also started to do an album that sort of stalled out due to COVID and various other things back in the winter, and got kind of put on hold. And I think he's ready to get back to that now, and hopefully going to get to some live play. But in addition to our session recording for 5x5, we did like an extra long session Sunday. It was like basically, I think, about 8 hours for Harrison and I, starting around 1 and concluding around 8:30. But we had about halfway through, we had Ansel come in, and with the idea of let's work on your album a bit, and also the idea of maybe why don't you come along on some songs of ours, and then come show up and play a little bit, perform a little bit live. Because I always say, as a producer, man, if you can play those songs live and get them out in the real world, and realize what they are in the moment, that's going to make you render a better version of that vocal and a better performance on your actual album. So that was the goal of that. And it just so happened that he fit perfectly on a song that we had already started, the title track of the album called 5x5. Now, I was not, like us, Ansel's a lyricist too, and he wants to, have his own input, and that's always a good thing for me as long as you're dealing with somebody that's got some skill. And he has got a great vocal tone, so I knew he'd sound great on this. But we started kind of producing him in and then getting some lyrics from him. I wasn't happy with my original pass on the verse lyrics of 5x5. For me, 5x5 was weird verse chords, and it was all about the chorus. And I had written a chorus I really loved, but I did not. I wrote a verse just to sing to get to the chorus, so I knew that wasn't going to make the cut. And so when Ansel came there, we started talking about new melodies, and he hummed along, and we came up with some words that would work with what he was humming. And next thing you know, we've kind of rewritten the verses of 5x5, and we kind of topped off that recording. I think that recording, apart from Harrison going back and laying the final guitars, I think it's basically done. So that was great. And then Tony left us to head back to Charlotte, and we worked with Ansel. I said, let's do one more song before you leave, because it's a 3-hour round trip for him to come be with us here in the studio. So he popped out his phone and showed me something I had heard before, and I thought we could definitely do something with that, where he's just singing, a cappella. And we turned that into a song called, ostensibly the song would be called Gone, except for that title's been used a lot more. So I'm thinking of the title, Real Damn Gone. I don't like cursing in music, but in country music, as a shtick, sometimes it's part of the gimmick. And I think in this case of the song, that it's like the word damn is sort of part of the gimmick. Damn this, damn that, you're real damn gone, etc. And that's kind of the way we went. And we ended up, by the end of the night, making a song that I know Harrison and I found interesting because we kept modulating, and then we did a bridge, which Ansel wanted, and next thing you know, 3 minutes and 20 seconds later, we have a 3 minutes and 20 second song, which is what I always shoot for songs that are going to go on an album that aren't intentionally being indulgent. Some of ours on the 5x5, by the way, are intentionally indulgent, like 4 or 5 minutes long, but typically 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I realize that I'm going really music heavy, and I'm halfway through this podcast, so let's switch over. So anyway, Sunday was a great day, and I closed the day out on an emotional high, having gotten my music fix for the week, and sent Harrison home with my J200 and my best microphone. He's going to button up the guitars that week, so this coming week. So hopefully we'll be very, very close after next Sunday to being finished, and then we'll be focused on our performances for, I think, July the 30th is our next official performance, and then we have a performance at Delilah's birthday party we're going to do on the 17th at Baden Inn. That'll just be private invites to friends and family, but on the 30th we'll be out live, and hopefully Ansel will be with us as everything goes to plan, although there's going to be putting some stuff back in order performance wise to be able to do that, but I think we can get it done. So yeah, I always love to start my week, which, by the way, it's I gotta wrap this up soon because I got my first client's coming in 20 minutes. But I love it when I can do that and start the week on a high after I've gotten that musical expression out of the way. And I say out of the way, lots of times I'll get really tired. Like, I'm a heavy person, man. I'm probably 330 or so at age 52. It's too heavy, and I'm trying to work on that. That's something I'm going to talk more about in future podcasts when I have a definitive plan. But I'm formulating a definitive plan to do something about that. Also, because hanging out with Delilah and keeping up with her as she gets older and more rambunctious, and the kid's been in tumblers since she was 2.5. So for 6 months now, she's been in tumblers, and I'm telling you, that has made an evolution of her fitness. Her her grip strength is incredible already. She can hold herself up longer than I can. So that's not nothing. And she loves climbing on things. So I've got to, she'll be like, Pop, climb this with me. And I'm like, I'm scared to get up that high off the ground. This is not a good thing if I fall, But I digress. So yesterday kicks off. We get up, we go have our little experience at Baden Coffee, which, by the way, we also went to Baden Coffee on Sunday with Delilah, and that was fun. There's pictures of that out there on the vlog, and you'll see the coverage. Lots of times we'll go outside and ride her scooter around Baden. I have a real affinity for the town of Baden. I find it a charming place, and I enjoy spending time there. But basically, we had that little experience Sunday, and so we didn't bring her back Monday morning. She was still asleep at home, and we went and then ultimately collected her. I got batteries charged up footage offloaded, and then we headed out to Lazy 5. Now, the thought process is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lazy 5 Ranch. It's near Mooresville. Basically, it's a place that's got 500 animals or so. It's wild. It's a ranch where somebody started collecting exotic pets and then turned it into like a zoo experience. And you go there, there's gift shops, there's playgrounds, there's walking parts of it where you visit animals that are, kept in smaller enclosures. And then there's a massive fenced-in area that's many, many acres, maybe 100 acres. I don't know, a lot. And on an average day in the summertime, you have to wait in line with cars to even get into the park. You have to wait in line for about an hour to an hour and a half. Probably an hour and a half is the longest I ever had to wait there. And it was worth it. But this day, because it's July the 4th, absolutely no waiting. When we get there at about, I'm going to say 3:45 or 4, there's maybe that I can observe 15 other cars in the place. Definitely didn't have to wait to get into the gate. So we get out. They got like snacks and whatnot. Nancy gets some of that stuff, which we end up largely feeding to the animals, but it was for Delilah, And I feed these little miniature cows. She told me the name of them. I can't remember the name of them, but they're like really small cows, like with big horns, African, and they are about the size of goats, and they're absolutely adorbs. Man, I don't know. I've got a heart for animals, and I love interacting with animals, friendly animals. It's amazing. And all the animals out there are conditioned. They give them these pellets which smell of molasses, so they're like, I guess, sweet protein pellets. And that's all they do all day long is go up to people and get hand-fed, right? So they're very primed for that experience. So it's awesome. So we did that, and we closed it out with the foot portion. Walking through the gardens with Delilah, we saw lemurs, kangaroos, camels, a bunch of exotic birds, some kinds of ducks that I've never seen, which they had in these really cool enclosures, with a kind of a fence of ivy around it, and they sort of swim around. And then we closed it out with having Nancy come pick us up at the exit, which is kind of covered with these nectarine trees. I don't think I've ever ate a nectarine off of a tree until yesterday. So we had several of those, and then apple trees on the way out. And we get those, and we, in the back of our minds, had this idea of checking out the 4th of July fair at a town called Faith near Salisbury on the way back home. But she falls asleep as we're going out. She's had a long day. She falls asleep, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get out of this second event because we're already blasted. It's super hot. It was like 91 degrees, and it got a little cloudy, and it maybe dropped down to like 80, 87, down possibly to 82 or so when we left. Still very hot and muggy. But we get to Faith, and Delilah wakes up and sees the Ferris wheel, and she's like, "Oh, let's get out!" And that was it. It was on. So we get out, and how can I put this nicely? Kind of a rough crowd, kind of a rough-looking crowd. A lot of tattoo-covered smokers out there. Y'all know how I feel about tobacco. I hate it, and I don't like to be around it. But for Delilah, I just sucked it up, and the shoes, as it so happens that we had on her, she blew out one of them, so the sole just came right off. So I had to carry her. So I'm carrying her like in like really what felt like 100-degree temperature with all the people around. And we do a couple of laps, but this fair was amazing. They had the big presentations, all the barkers. Hey, come over here, spend your money, you can win this. They had all that, and we go through that thing. And Nancy, I think, thought she was going to talk me into getting on a ride, but at my size now, I noticed that I can't do rides anymore. Like, they make my stomach sick real quick. So I was like, I can't do that, but I will carry her. So Nancy bit the bullet, got the tickets, and got on one of these little haunted rides that's just nothing really. You're on a little seat that moves around the whole thing, and it's like basically $10 for the two of them to make a ride that took not 60 seconds. Or maybe it was about 60 seconds. But anyway, they did that, and that met the requirement of having her take one ride. Tried to talk her into the teacup, couldn't do it. All the other rides were too fast and too strong. So she said no to that. But Delilah had an absolutely great time. Brought her home, and her mom picked her up probably about 9 o'clock. So we had a fantastic day. So it was a beautiful 4th. Got some great pictures, all of which you can see on the weekly vlogs. If you check those out at brentbowers.com, the first page loads up my weekly vlog page. Also, these podcasts can be found on the left-hand navigation under podcasting. Hopefully you'll see these soon on iTunes. I think you have to get about 5 of them accumulated before that happens. And that's going to be it for episode 2 of Brentocast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.